My girlfriend slept with her guy best friend while I was in the hospital. I found out when he texted her from my phone while I was unconscious. So I got discharged early, borrowed a tux, and crashed their dinner date. The look on her face was almost worth the coma. Hey there. We're working hard to hit our first 1,000 subscribers. If you love true, emotional stories, hit that subscribe button. It helps more than you know. Now let's get into the story. Let me start with this. I never expected to wake up from a coma to find out my girlfriend cheated on me, using my own phone, with the guy she told me not to worry about. Yeah, let that sink in for a second. It was supposed to be a normal day at the job site. I work construction, pretty routine stuff, high-rise framing. But that day, something snapped. Literally. Scaffolding gave out from above, and I didn't even have time to react. I don't remember the fall. Don't remember the pain. The doctors later said I was lucky to survive it. Skull fracture, broken ribs, punctured lung. They put me in a medically induced coma for 6 days to stabilize the pressure in my brain. And in those 6 days, while I was somewhere between life and death, my girlfriend Laura, my partner of 3 years, the woman who told me I was her safe place, used that time to hook up with her guy best friend, Ryan. The one I always had a weird feeling about. The one she said was like a brother. You know the type. But here's where it gets twisted. I woke up blurry, groggy, confused. Couldn't move my arms much. Tubes everywhere. But the nurse told me it was a good sign, that I was conscious again, coherent. She handed me my personal effects in a clear plastic bag. Wallet, watch, and my phone. That damn phone. I didn't even plan to check it right away. I was too out of it. But when I finally opened it, out of habit more than anything, I saw a new message pop up. No name. Just a number. But I recognized it. Ryan. The text? It said, "Last night was amazing. I don't care if he wakes up. I want you again." At first, I didn't believe what I was reading. I was on painkillers. My head was pounding. I actually laughed. I thought maybe I was hallucinating. Maybe I was reading it wrong. But then I checked the message history. There was more. Deleted messages. I recovered what I could. I scrolled through the data on my phone, stunned at how easily it unraveled. They'd been texting on my phone while I was unconscious. She'd answered him from my number, and he'd replied like nothing was wrong. No guilt. No fear. Just heat. One photo was still in the trash folder. It was of her, on my bed. My pillows. In the shirt I used to wear around the house. She was holding up a wine glass. I recognized the sheets. The lighting. It was our place. Our bedroom. I don't think I breathed for a full minute. That photo wasn't meant for me. The timestamp? 3 nights ago. I should have been dead. According to the doctors, there were minutes they weren't sure if I'd make it. But Laura had already decided how she was going to mourn me, by sleeping with the guy I had doubts about since month 3. She didn't think I'd wake up. Well, surprise. From that point on, something in me went cold. I didn't scream, didn't panic, didn't cry. I just stared at the wall and made a decision. If she could betray me while I was literally unconscious, then I was going to make sure the first time she saw me again would be a moment she never forgot. I buzzed the nurse, told her I wanted to push my discharge paperwork. She protested, hard. I was still healing, barely able to walk without help, and nowhere near cleared for full release. But I was polite, quiet. I said I had family who could help me recover, which was a lie. I didn't tell my parents. Didn't call Laura. Didn't tell a soul. Over the next 24 hours, I played the game, passed the basic mobility tests, kept my vitals steady, smiled through the pain, swallowed the humiliation, all while rereading those texts, those messages, that photo. By the time I walked out of that hospital, I had a plan. She didn't know I was out. She hadn't visited in 4 days anyway. I checked our shared calendar. Yes, we still had one from when things were good. And I saw she had a dinner reservation at a place downtown. A steakhouse we used to go to on special nights. And she had booked it under her name, with a note for 2 guests. I made a call. Got in touch with a friend who owed me a favor. He brought me a suit. Tuxedo, actually, because why the hell not? If Laura and Ryan wanted to play dirty while I was fighting for my life, then I'd show up looking like a ghost, dressed for a funeral. And hers was about to begin. The hardest part wasn't getting the suit. Wasn't even sneaking out of the hospital without telling anyone. The hardest part was staying upright. My ribs were still broken. My stitches itched like hell. I had a cane in one hand and painkillers in my jacket pocket, just in case I collapsed on the sidewalk. But I pushed through it. Laura didn't know I was out. She had no clue I'd seen the messages. That I knew. And she sure as hell didn't expect me to walk into the steakhouse she was sitting in, alive, dressed like James Bond, and holding a receipt from my own bed. The restaurant was upscale. Dim lighting, quiet ambience. One of those places that always made me nervous about how I was dressed. But not that night. That night, I wanted to be noticed. I asked the hostess if Laura Mason had checked in. She smiled and said, "Yes, party of 2. They're seated just over there. She pointed toward the corner booth. And there they were. Ryan had his back to me. Laura was facing him, smiling that fake flirty smile she used when she was trying to get something expensive. She was swirling wine in her glass, nodding at whatever lie he was telling. She looked happy, like nothing had happened, like I was a closed tab on her screen. Until I walked up behind him and said, "You know, they told me I might not make it. Guess I'm harder to kill than you thought." Ryan turned first. I've never seen a grown man go that pale that fast. Laura looked up and froze. Her mouth opened. Her hand dropped her wine glass. It shattered on the floor, but nobody moved. I stepped forward, set my cane against the table, and laid my phone down, screen unlocked. Open to the thread of messages between her and Ryan. The ones I'd pulled from deleted backups. Then I took a seat at their table like it was the most natural thing in the world. No yelling. No accusations. I didn't need them. All I said was, "I hope the steak is good. It's the last thing you'll be chewing with my name attached." The silence was nuclear. Laura finally spoke, barely. Her voice cracked. "Why, you're out of the hospital?" I smiled. "Yep. Walked out this morning. Got myself a tux. Felt like tonight deserved a dress code." Ryan tried to stand, like he was going to make a scene. But he didn't. He sat back down. He knew. He saw the look in my eyes. Laura reached out, her hand shaking across the table. "Wait, let me explain. Please, just let me explain." I leaned back in the booth, ignoring the burning in my ribs. "I'd love to hear the part where you justified screwing your best friend in our apartment 3 nights after I nearly died." She had nothing. Not a word. I gave her a moment. Watched her squirm. Then I pulled out the photo she'd sent him from my bed. Printed it. Slid it across the table. "You left this in the trash folder. Guess you forgot I'd back up my phone." She looked down and physically recoiled. Ryan glanced at it and mumbled something like, "Dude, come on." I cut him off. "Don't. You had your shot at being a man. Instead, you sent her that message on my phone. While I was in a coma. That's a different breed of coward." A few tables nearby had gone quiet. People were watching. One waiter was frozen with a tray of drinks Madeira. Good. Let them watch. I stood up. Slow. Painfully. Picked up my cane. Took my phone off the table. And said, clear enough for everyone to hear, "Enjoy your date. This is the last thing you'll ever do together with my blessing. I paid the reservation deposit. Don't say I never gave you anything." Then I walked out. Step by step. Each one slower than the last. But I didn't stop. I didn't look back, either. Not when Laura called my name. Not when Ryan yelled something about, "It wasn't like that." I didn't need answers. Because I'd already won. I didn't go back to the hospital. I didn't go home either. That place. The apartment. It didn't feel like mine anymore. Not after what happened in it. Instead, I limped down 2 blocks and called a rideshare from the alley behind a drugstore. The tux was already soaked through with sweat. Every breath hurt. But I was grinning. Not from happiness. Not revenge, either. From clarity. That dinner wasn't closure. That was just opening the floodgates. The call started before I even got to the motel. First it was Laura. Then Ryan. Then Laura again. I let them go to voicemail. One after another. No point listening. I'd already heard everything I needed to when she was on speakerphone with Ryan, moaning on my side of the bed. By the time I got to the motel, I had over 30 notifications. Missed calls. Texts. Voice memos. Long paragraphs filled with excuses, apologies. It was a mistake, and my personal favorite. "I thought you weren't coming back." That last one stuck with me. Not because it hurt, but because it was honest. She gambled that I wouldn't survive. And when I beat the odds, she panicked. So I let her panic. For 3 straight days. I shut off my phone. Slept with one eye open. Ordered takeout. Ignored the outside world. And let the silence scream in her ears. But on the 4th day, I woke up with a new thought. I still had the key. To our apartment. The lease was still in my name. My stuff was still there. And I needed to see what was left of the life I paid for. So I went back. Quietly. Middle of the day, when she was supposed to be at work. I didn't knock. Didn't warn her. I opened the door like I used to. And the smell hit me first. Not bad, just unfamiliar. Expensive cologne. Candles I'd never bought. There were 2 wine glasses in the sink, and a pair of sneakers at the door. His sneakers. I walked to the bedroom. Everything looked the same. Except the sheets were different. The pillows were swapped out. And on the dresser? A framed photo. Of her and Ryan. At the beach. Taken 2 weeks before the accident. 2 weeks. So they'd been a thing before the coma. While I was still walking, talking, breathing. That's when it clicked. This wasn't a one-night panic. This wasn't about grief or loneliness. This had been planned. I stood there for a long time. My body ached. My chest burned. But my mind. Sharp. So I started collecting. Not my stuff. I didn't want any of it. I grabbed everything she'd ever left at my place. Her heels, her yoga mat, her bathrobe, even the damn shampoo she made me use because mine smelled like drywall. I stuffed it all into a trash bag, took it out to the dumpster behind the building, watched it fall in. Then I went back in and logged into the apartment Wi-Fi from my phone. You know what I found? Her laptop had been syncing everything to the cloud, including the messages, including the photos, including a voice memo labeled emergency plan, delete later. It was her, talking to Ryan, a week before my accident. I listened to the whole thing. She said, and I quote, "If something ever happens to him, you know I'd choose you. I need to be smart about timing. If he's out of the picture, we don't have to sneak anymore." I don't know what made her say it. Maybe it was a fantasy. Maybe she was drunk. But she'd said it, out loud, and recorded it. Now I had proof. I downloaded everything, backed it up, and then I locked the apartment behind me for the last time. I didn't go straight back to the motel after leaving the apartment. I stopped by a coffee shop down the street, ordered the strongest black coffee they had, and opened my phone. I had a plan now, but I wanted to make sure it stung. The first thing I did was upload every bit of evidence to a private cloud folder. Screenshots, the messages, the voice memo, photos from my bed, the dinner reservation, the calendar notes, the beach photo. I added one title to the folder. In case of gaslighting, open me. Then I made a copy, sent it to one person, Lara's father. Why him? Because I knew something Lara didn't. Her dad always hated Ryan. See, Lara came from a decent family. Her dad and I had a solid relationship. He respected me, took me fishing twice, even offered to co-sign on a loan when I was thinking of buying a fixer-upper. He was the kind of guy who believed in handshakes and consequences. So I sent him the link. No message, no explanation, just the link. 10 minutes later, my phone rang. I picked up. "Is this real?" he asked. Voice low. "Dangerous." I said. "It's time-stamped, backed up, and some of it was recorded in her own voice." Silence on the other end. Then a deep exhale. Jesus Christ. He hung up. No more words. I knew he'd handle it from there. Later that day, I finally turned my phone back on fully. All alerts, all notifications, and the chaos had already begun. Text from her mom, her cousin, even one of her friends who used to side-eye me during game nights. The general tone? I had no idea. "I'm so sorry. Please talk to her." I didn't respond to a single one. The only message I sent was to Lara herself. "Don't call me. Don't text me. Don't even think about showing up. Your dad knows." 5 minutes later, I watched her location go dark on Find My. She turned it off. Too late. The damage was done. The next day, I got a call from an unknown number. Normally, I wouldn't have picked up, but something told me to answer. It was Ryan's girlfriend. Or rather, ex-girlfriend now. Her name was Tasha. She sounded calm. Too calm. She said, "Hey, I found your number through Lara's contact list. I think we need to compare notes." Turns out, Ryan was a serial liar. He'd told Tasha I was controlling, abusive, that Lara and he had always had a connection, but that I manipulated her into staying. Tasha believed him. For a while. Until she found the folder I'd shared. Apparently, her inbox exploded. Someone on Lara's side of the family forwarded the entire evidence package. She saw everything. She told me she'd already packed his stuff into boxes and left them on the lawn. Changed the locks. Called his employer too, who apparently had a very strict policy about employee conduct. Especially with clients. Especially when affairs are involved. He was fired that same day. So to recap, Ryan lost his job. His girlfriend dumped him. Lara's family disowned her for lying. And I was just getting started. Now, I didn't post anything publicly. I didn't go on social media with some dramatic expose or rant. That wasn't my style. But I did make one small, surgical move. I changed the Netflix password. Then Hulu. Then Spotify. Everything we'd once shared. Every login. Every comfort she leached off of while just being friends with Ryan. Gone. And every time she tried to reset a password, she'd see the recovery email now read. "You play Eddie yourself at email.com. I slept better that night than I had in months. Not because she was hurting, but because the lie had finally collapsed under its own weight. And I hadn't had to raise my voice once. A week passed. No more calls. No more crying voicemails. Just silence. At first, I thought maybe she'd finally accepted it was over. That I'd walked away for good and she wouldn't try to twist it. Then the text came through. It was late, around midnight. Long paragraph. For parts broken up into separate messages like she'd rewritten it over and over again. She started with a classic. "I don't expect you to forgive me, but please read this." I almost didn't. But part of me wanted to know what version of the story she'd try to sell now that the walls were caving in. She claimed it all started when she thought she'd lost me. That Ryan had been there during her grief, and it blurred the lines. She blamed the loneliness, the pressure, the fear. Said she made a terrible mistake, but it didn't mean she stopped loving me. That line, that was the one that got me. So I replied, with a single screenshot. The voice memo file, titled Emergency Plan, Delete Later. The one where she literally said, "If he's out of the picture, we don't have to sneak anymore." I didn't even bother retyping anything. Just sent it. It was read within seconds. She didn't reply. Not then. Not ever again. But others did. Apparently, Laura had tried to do damage control. She told mutual friends I'd ghosted her after the accident. Claimed I was emotionally distant when I got out of the hospital. One even asked if I was dealing with trauma poorly. Like that justified what she did. I didn't fight back. I didn't jump into group chats or post long explanations. I just started forwarding the same folder link to people asking questions. No drama. No commentary. Just facts. Let the evidence speak for itself. And it did. One by one, people started dropping off her side. Even her own sister messaged me. "I'm sorry. I didn't know. She told us you were fading." Fading? I was being kept alive by machines. And she was painting me as already dead while slipping into someone else's sheets. Meanwhile, I was trying to pull my life back together from a motel bed with cracked ribs and a savings account that looked like a sad joke. But here's where things got unexpectedly better. A buddy of mine, Mark, heard about what happened. He managed a site downstate. Different crew, lighter duties, better pay. He said, "You want a fresh start? You've got it. You'll be on payroll next week." So I moved. New town, new job, new place, small studio. Nothing fancy, but mine. And with it came a sense of control I hadn't felt in months. I started working again. Slowly at first. The bruises took time to heal. But I was showing up, putting in hours, eating real food, sleeping without nightmares. And then something I didn't expect happened. I met someone. No, it wasn't love at first sight. No fairy tale nonsense. Just a real moment with a real woman named Kayla. She worked in the office. One day, she saw me limping down the hallway and said, "You look like you lost a fight with gravity." I laughed. First time in weeks. We started talking, then texting, then coffee. She wasn't pushy, wasn't invasive, didn't ask for the full story, just sat with me when I didn't want to be alone, and told me about her stupid cat that hated everyone but her. She made me feel like a person again. And the more I healed, the more I started seeing what Laura had stolen from me, and what she never deserved to keep. It had been 2 months since the restaurant. 2 months since I walked out of that booth and left her staring at a phone full of receipts and a heart full of rot. Since then, things were quiet. Not peaceful exactly, but manageable. I was working. I was healing. I was existing again, without flinching at every buzz from my phone. And Kayla, she never pried, never poked at the wounds. She just existed next to me, like the silence between notes in a good song. But peace, as I've learned, is usually just a pause between storms. It was a Saturday morning. Early. I'd just come back from the grocery store, 2 bags of cheap coffee and a frozen pizza clutched in one hand. When I turned the corner to my apartment building, I saw her, Laura, sitting on the steps like she belonged there. Same boots I bought her last Christmas. Same jacket from our cabin trip. She looked smaller, like someone had hit mute on the confidence she used to wear like perfume. For a second, I thought maybe I was dreaming, that my brain had conjured up some last, bitter hallucination. But no, she stood when she saw me. Didn't smile. Didn't cry. Just stood. "I had to see you," she said. I didn't answer. Just walked past her, groceries still in hand. Came tapping the sidewalk in a rhythm I hoped sounded bored. She followed me up the stairs. I opened the door. She didn't ask to come in, but she stood right in the threshold, like she might. "I just want to talk," she said. So I let her. She started slow. Said she'd been in therapy. That she'd unpacked a lot of patterns. That she was working on herself. I didn't say a word. She said Ryan had moved to Texas. That his girlfriend, Tasha, had made sure he was blacklisted from every contracting firm in the area. He was living with his brother now. Unemployed. Bitter. She looked up at me then and said, "I lost everything. My job, my family, even my friends. They all saw what you shared." Still, I said nothing. Then she added the final card she'd been hiding. "I know I don't deserve you back, but I was hoping you'd at least let me explain. Maybe, someday, we could rebuild something." I let that hang in the air for a long second. Then I reached behind the door and grabbed a box I'd packed weeks ago. Her last few things. A scarf. A copy of a book she made me read. A necklace she left in my glove box. I handed it to her. She took it. Slowly. Like it was radioactive. Then I said, "You didn't just cheat on me. You gambled on my death. And lost." Her face twisted. Not into tears. Into regret. The real kind. The kind that comes when you realize you burned the wrong bridge, and now the river's rising. She opened her mouth to respond. I closed the door. Locked it. And just like that, it was done. She knocked once. Then again. Then stood there for another minute before I heard her footsteps fade. I didn't check the peephole. Didn't check my phone. I just walked back into the kitchen, microwaved my frozen pizza, and sat on the floor with a cup of bitter coffee and my legs still aching. Outside, the world kept turning. Inside, something finally stopped bleeding. And that's the story. If you're still here, that means you're one of us. So go ahead, hit that subscribe button. I drop new chaos every single day, and trust me, tomorrow's story, it's even worse than this one.